Hi, I'm Helen Bauer, and this is the Heart of Hospice podcast. The Heart of Hospice podcast is your source for compassionate and informative discussions about hospice and end-of-life care. I'm a certified hospice and palliative care nurse with over 15 years of experience. Whether you're a caregiver, someone with a serious illness, or you simply need to know more about hospice care, this podcast is for you. Join me as we explore all the aspects of hospice, from the details of caregiving to the emotional and spiritual dimensions of end-of-life journeys. For more resources and to connect with me, visit theheartofhospice.com and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Keep listening for today's episode.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
This episode is sponsored by Hospice Navigation Services. When you need information about hospice, Hospice Navigation Services can help. Our team of experienced hospice navigators is here to offer one-on-one consulting sessions by phone or video. You can book a complimentary 30-minute session when you need general information, or book a 60-minute session when you have in-depth questions or need to troubleshoot your current hospice care. It's your journey. Hospice Navigation Services can be your guide. Visit theheartofhospice.com to schedule your hospice navigation session today. This episode is sponsored by GrandPad. GrandPad is the all-in-one tablet designed especially for senior adults. With GrandPad, you get safe, simple video calling and photo sharing. Users can create a private family network that allows for secure photo and video sharing. The GrandPad utilizes a simple format that allows seniors to enjoy games, music, email, and more. Visit our special GrandPad website designed exclusively for the Heart of Hospice listeners at grandpad.net/THOH.
I'm talking with funeral director Roupp today about funerals and how he and his team work to make them personal and meaningful. My guest, Roupp, joined Roupp Funeral Home as a funeral director in 1998, so he's been doing this for a while. He and his team believe each person and every family has a story, and that it's their challenge as a funeral home provider to help each family member remember and celebrate that story in their own personal way. Andre is really passionate about encouraging funeral planning as part of advanced care planning. I hope if you don't hear anything else on the podcast that you definitely listen to that part. He's going to be giving some examples of what happens when funeral planning is not part of an advanced care plan and what the fallout of not having a plan looks like. He's also going to be talking about the annual memorial service that his business has. They honor the families that they have served through the year. He's talking about what happens during the service and why that's so meaningful for him. He also described to me the honor services, honor guards that are part of the services the funeral home provides. He talks about military veterans and nurse honor guards, which of course is very important to me as a nurse. And you're going to hear him talk about how each of these services is conducted and why they're so moving. Andre also shared a discussion with me about self-care. So there's a high burnout rate among funeral professions, just like there is in healthcare and hospice. And he's talking about his self-care practices and how the company supports his team as well using something they call grief yoga. It's a great way to have some self-care. So if you want to connect with Roupp Funeral Home and find the resources that they offer, his website is rouppfuneralhome.com, and it's Roupp is how you spell Roupp. We'll have a link in the show notes, and you can go straight there. So this is a great conversation. It's a little bit different from what we usually talk about, but there's a lot to learn. Andre, welcome to the Heart of Hospice podcast. It's great to have you with me.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
It's great to have you on the show, Andre. We're going to have an interesting conversation. I'm trying to remember if I've ever actually had a funeral director on the show. I don't think, maybe once. Once. Yeah, you guys are kind of a buzzkill at a party.
Yeah. Yeah, we're downers. We're real downers.
Well, I can't say much either. I mean, a hospice nurse, what do you do for a living? Well, I work with the dying.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, your second invitation never comes back. So you are a funeral director in Pennsylvania and for a family-owned funeral home. Tell me how you got started in this work. Was it inherited, or did you have a calling to work in funeral care?
Sure. So I've been licensed since '97, so it's 28 years already. So I have a lot of reflection back into the industry and my time in working in our community. And I grew up in a funeral home. My grandfather was in the funeral industry for 66 years, licensed for 66 years. That was my mother's father. So I grew up in a funeral home and, living above the funeral home as services were going on, learning had to be quiet during services. And even as I got older, helping on services. And that was not in this area. That was in the upstate northern tier of Pennsylvania, Mansfield, Wellsboro. And then my family moved to Mifflinburg, where we're located now in 85. And then I was in fourth grade, so I grew up here and graduated high school, went to college thinking I was just going to do anything but be a funeral director. And then as I was in college, I got a job at a funeral home for some extra cash, and then started thinking, what the heck am I going to do with my life? And the funeral home, encouraged me to go to mortuary school. So that's what I did. Upon completion of my schooling in Pittsburgh and my internship in Pittsburgh, I had a difficult decision. Do I stay there and grow, or move back to my home community where my family was located? And that's what I decided. And it was a great decision because I've now had 28 incredible years here in my home community, serving my community, and have been successful and have earned a great career and have a family of my own.
That's an awesome story. I love that. So I would say that you've grown beyond just supporting your community, because you have resources on your website where you're supporting folks that are not clients, have not been families that have utilized your services. I actually signed up for your grief support emails. So, I'm on like week 28 or 29. And so I've been seeing those come through, and they're really robust. It seems like you guys offer some very unique services, and we're going to dive into that. But one of the things we're going to start with is advanced care planning, including your funeral planning, because you are very passionate about the value of this.
Yes.
A lot of people don't take advantage of it, but once you go through it, you realize the huge benefits of including funeral planning and doing your pre-planning, prepaying even. So what would you say are the benefits of including a funeral plan inside an advanced care plan?
Well, planning in life is really, important all the way through life, including your end of life plans. And it's not only knowing having your own peace of mind that everything is going to be taken care of, not only that your wishes may be carried out, but also financially, that you're not leaving a financial burden on your family or burden of making decisions on your family. in one of the most difficult times in their lives. So, great benefits are that your wishes are known to your family and your loved ones, that financially it is taken care of. The funeral expenses, the final expenses are taken care of, and those can range, those can get into thousands of dollars, over $10,000, $15,000 when everything's said and done at times. So it could be very expensive, and so we deal with this often, and we see those that have planned well and those that haven't, and those that have planned well, their families most 99.9% of the time say, "I'm so glad mom or dad did this." It made it easier on us as far as the transition and moving forward. And we see often it not be planned well. And a family comes in, "What did dad want?" "I don't know. I think he wanted cremated." "No, dad wanted buried." "Well, where? Does he have cemetery plots?" "I don't know." And there's a lot of indecision, and it causes anxiety. It causes, chaos, really.
Yeah.
And so it's very beneficial, and we can help along the way with that planning, both information, decisions, and financially.
Do you have people that come in and they begin to have these conversations amongst themselves when they're trying to plan and there's nothing been done already? And does it cause discord? People have arguments and start fussing with each other about how it should go?
That doesn't happen often, but yes, I have run into that. And it's a difficult time, one of the most, like I said, most difficult time in your lives, losing a loved one. And now we're kind of pulling hairs here, or struggling, or playing tug of war as to what should be done.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you really want in a family. The planning, like I said, in life, whether you're financially planning for retirement or you're planning for a wedding, whatever it may be, it's not a lot different in your end of life planning.
Yeah, we plan for all these big life events, birth of a baby, getting married, moving, even taking a vacation,
Yeah.
You make reservations, you make plans, and you pay in advance. So let me ask you this. A lot of folks end up with a solo caregiver, people with only children or a spouse with no kids. How do you see that unfolding if you've got somebody who's having to make arrangements by themselves and there's been no plan? I would think that that'd be really difficult.
Very difficult. It may feel like the world is crashing down on you and you alone. You've got no support. Your loved one has left you with these decisions and with this financial responsibility. And it can cause a lot of, overall discomfort in many ways. And that's the last thing you really want to see. And if, as a family member, I want to do this, not necessarily for myself, but for my loved ones that are going to be here when I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Streamline it. Hand it to
Yep.
them already. You don't really need to do anything, but
Yes.
be present and process your grief, because it's a huge grief event. How do you think the lack of pre-planning affects families' grief experience?
They get wrapped often. I see that families may get wrapped up in the other stuff. How am I going to financially take care of this? Boy, I'm making decisions now rather than concentrating on my own grief, and where I should be in this grieving process, and taking a step back and taking a deep breath and doing that. I've seen that you get caught up, and the next thing you know, it's months down the road, and I've seen it. They're starting now to face the reality of, wow, what have I just been through? Rather than being able to accept and deal with that grieving process, start that grieving process right away.
It just sort of delays
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I can see that.
It could.
So your funeral home does something that I think is pretty unusual. I may be wrong, but you guys have an annual memorial service
Yes.
for the families in your community. You experienced that first one not too long after your dad died.
Yes, my father passed 6 years ago, and our memorial service is in the end of the year in December, and we have a pastor that comes in and has a short memorial. He also does a reading of the names of those loved ones that have been lost over the last year, the families that we've served. And I sat in on this memorial service, and it's something that I really connected with. And when I heard the name of my loved one, my father, Lee Moore, it really struck me. It really, it's hard to understand the emotions when you hear your loved one's name, when you hear a story of your loved one. It's tough to explain unless you're in it. In that memorial service, we also have local musician and some a church, local youth church choir, and it's really a time of celebration and remembering. And we've had great response from it, and it's something that it takes us an entire year of planning and my team here to put it together at the end of the season, but it's really well worth it.
Well, I mean, obviously you already know firsthand the kind of impact that service has on the people that are there that hear the name of their person being read. So how important is that, right?
And I think that it really is important, and with us having the connection also that people have with music. One story that we have some live musician that's playing some prior to the service time, and the people that can come in and sit and connect with their loved one through music, also very powerful.
Yeah, music seems to hit you right in the heart, right in the heart. One of the services that you provide is the special honoring ceremonies that are provided for a military veteran here in the United States. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast because 1 out of every 4 Medicare hospice patients is a U.S. military veteran, 25% of the community that we serve in hospice. And that's a lot. And their military service, their time in the military is very important to them. They're very proud of it. Oftentimes their families are not even aware of everything that they've done, and they are very proud of their person that's done this. And you guys provide those honors. What does a funeral for a veteran look like?
So, my brother is a veteran. My grandfather was a veteran, World War II veteran, and boy, I'm very proud of their service. And it's something that veterans should be very proud of, and we thank them for their service, of course. And we help here coordinate everything from applying to different benefits that are available, also coordinating with the local American Legion, Veteran of Foreign Wars, who provide military honors for veterans. And so a military honored service, often the military honors are at the very end. Okay. Sometimes that's at the funeral home, more often at the cemetery after the time of committal. There is a folding of the flag. So if it is a full burial, the casket is draped with the American flag. And the veterans will fold the flag while reading some words in scripture. They then present the flag to the next of kin. This is something we most of the time is through our own community and area veterans, and they take great honor in doing this. This is not taken lightly. After the presentation of the flag, there is a gun salute and playing of the taps. And that is the completion of the service time. That is, if you've ever been to a military honored service, that is really something that's very, I think, it's very honorable and well deserving.
Yeah, and TAPS is moving. You don't have to be in the military to be struck by that. Yeah, it can bring tears very easily. I love it that you guys are honoring the veterans in your community. That's so important. Another special honor guard that you guys provide is a nurse honor guard. And I think it's much less well known. People don't know as much about this. I actually only became aware of nurse honor guards about a year or two ago. And I've been a nurse for almost 35 years. So
thank you for your service. Yes.
Well, thank you. So I had never seen that. So can you describe for my listeners what a nurse honor guard is and how it's incorporated into a service for someone?
Sure. So the connection with me, my wife is going to nursing school now, and also as an EMT, and we work very closely here at the funeral home with hospice, of course, and nurses, and what a great comfort and service and blessing you as a nurse are to those that are, at end of stage life, and helping families through that. So an honor guard, nurses honor guard, very similar to a military honor guard, is that the area nurses will provide some words and scripture and remembrance. They also, the nursing honor guard also has a moment of silence and a ringing of a bell, which kind of commemorates all of their service as and commitment as a nurse. Other service times, firefighters, EMTs, they'll do honor guards. Sometimes members of the honor guard standing at attention at either side of the casket. Also a final call for the EMT and firefighters. So the service person's name is called over the emergency radio, and of course is not answered, and that is their final call. Also similar to TAPS, very moving and well-deserving of their service.
I had a patient several years ago who was a retired firefighter. And when he died, the local fire department, now this is small town, rural Texas, they took one of the fire engines and parked it in front of his home until he left, until the body was taken out. And then they followed the hearse to the funeral home. And then I think it was also included in the procession when his body was taken to the cemetery. Yeah, just as an honor.
Yes, that is often provided from our local hose company as well. And, really taking care of their own. And they understand the service and commitment to, from a firefighter, EMT, to their local community of, years of service and dedication, and really putting their lives on the line. And taking care of their own in that time. Yeah.
So the pictures that I've seen of the Nurse Honor Guard that we have here in Texas, in my local community, they have a uniform that they wear. Do they do that in your services as well? So describe those for me so that my audience knows what that looks like, because it's a little unique.
Well, What I'm familiar with is it's almost like a nurse's uniform with it's kind of with a cape. Well, that's probably not the right word.
Well, no, that was the nurse's uniform
Yeah.
way back when. Think sort of Florence Nightingale.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
way
it.
back when, that is exactly what
Yeah.
they wore.
That's what you should picture. And they're just, through the Nurses Honor Guard, the military, firefighters, all of them, when it comes time for honoring their loved one, they are dressed sharply, professionally,
Yeah.
and showing all of that respect.
Yeah. I love the Nurse Honor Guard because they're dressed in all white, which no longer is practical. And I think we've moved away from that because we figured
Right.
out that's not the best color for a nurse to wear these days. But they wear all white. They wear the caps, another not practical
Yes.
item, but yeah, it's,
Yes.
and it's very solemn. And I love that. And the Nurse Honor Guard is made up of nurses.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are being honored by your profession. And I think, as a nurse, for me, I think that's really moving. I am loving this conversation, but we're going to take a break right now. There's more to come.
This episode is being sponsored by Hospice Navigation Services. Hospice Navigation Services can provide the answers and support you need, whether you're seeking information for yourself, a loved one, or someone in your care. Our experienced team offers personalized, unbiased guidance through one-on-one consulting sessions by phone or video, tailored to your unique situation. Let us help you navigate hospice care with confidence and compassion. If you're a healthcare professional, Hospice Navigation Services is your trusted resource for you and your clients, providing compassionate, knowledgeable support at every step. When clients or families have questions about hospice, or if you need expert guidance to support your clients' end-of-life care decisions, we encourage you to refer them to Hospice Navigation Services. So whether you're exploring how to start hospice services or need to troubleshoot your current hospice care, Hospice Navigation Services is ready to guide you. You deserve clarity and compassionate support on this journey. Visit hospicenavigation.com to schedule your hospice navigation session today. This episode of The Heart of Hospice is sponsored by GrandPad. If you're looking for an easy solution to stay connected to your older loved ones, GrandPad is everything you need. The GrandPad is the all-in-one tablet designed especially for senior adults. The GrandPad utilizes a simple format that allows seniors to enjoy games, music, email, and more. GrandPad comes with 4G LTE cellular service already included, so there's no need for Wi-Fi. Users can create a private family network that allows for secure photo and video sharing. No spam, no robocalls. Only connections with those you trust. With GrandPad, you get safe, simple video calling and photo sharing to connect the whole family. The GrandPad is a great gift for a senior loved one on Mother's Day or Father's Day. This simple device empowers seniors of all ages and technological skills to safely connect with family, friends, and caregivers. The GrandPad team strives to create a world where no senior is lonely or isolated. To learn more about the advantages of GrandPad, visit our special GrandPad website designed exclusively for the Heart of Hospice listeners at grandpad.net/THOH or call 1-888-904-4723. That's 1-888-904-4723.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. You lead your team there at the funeral home. You supervise these folks, and you deal in an industry where compassion fatigue and burnout are part of the job. It's just inherent to the work that you do. And you've got to, as a leader, be able to take care of the people that work at your funeral home and yourself. So what do you do for your team to mitigate some of the effects of the compassion fatigue?
Yeah, it's certainly very important in any working environment and industry to have a break. It's something, especially in the funeral industry, healthcare, with what we deal with on day-to-day basis can be very unhealthy if it is not, if it's kept inside, if it's not given a break. And so what we do is, for our team, is we want to make sure that we give proper time away from the funeral home and out of the office, and not on call time, because that can be very trying. I was just talking with somebody the other day that, for a long time, I mean, we are on our phone is connected to us at all times. We're waiting for that phone call.
Yeah.
It could happen at any time. And that itself just, well, I can't go anywhere because the phone may ring.
Right. I can't plan anything.
Right. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we give time away from the funeral home for our team, for our employees, and time not on call. And that is something that I've been trying to learn because as a business owner and leader, often you want to be in and available at all times. And now that I have a family, a wife and a daughter, I'm finding that it's very important that I take some time away and time with my family. If I don't, I find that I'm not the best here at the funeral home, and I'm not the best that I could be serving as a funeral director in my community.
When you were younger, when you just were first starting out in the funeral industry, were you as aware of the burnout and the compassion fatigue? And did you practice self-care at that point?
No, I didn't. I admittedly did not. And I was probably just young and stupid. But I also, at those beginning years, I didn't have a cell phone. So that was a big thing, that I had a pager.
Yeah, that was a thing, right?
So I had a pager, and if the certain number would pop up, well, now I had to find a phone. If I was at home, no problem. But if I was on the road, now I had to stop and find a phone so I could call in for the emergency. But
listen, that's the way it was. We're very spoiled these days with cell phones.
My grandfather would, when he would leave the funeral home, that's when something would happen. So he would ask his wife, who would be at home. So if the phone rings and it's a death call, I'm going to the post office, and then the hardware store, and then the grocery store, and then I'll be home. So if the phone, come find me. Or
yeah.
Call Bob down at the grocery store. I may be there. I'll come home.
That's the way it used to work.
Yeah. One of another local small town, when the funeral director, when he would leave that runs errands or in town, his wife, if a death call came in, they had a bell out back. She would go and ring the bell. So if he heard the bell ring, he would come back to the funeral home.
That's funny, like calling him in for dinner.
Yeah.
That's a hoot. But I remember those days, being out in the field, seeing patients doing community-based home health and having a pager that would buzz, and then you have to make sure you're in a safe neighborhood.
Sure.
And we would see patients at all times of the day and night, and you'd be searching around for a payphone that worked, that was safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Those early years of mine too, that we'd be going to a football game. Well, I've got to drive, guys. I'll meet you there, because if something happens, I have to leave. So I've always had to drive separately.
Full tank of gas all the time.
Yeah, full tank of gas, right. But I'm going to say, the older I get, but the further along I go in my career, I do know I'm finding the importance of self-care, family time, and that self-care also means getting some exercise, and maybe having my own therapy because we as funeral directors, nurses, other healthcare, you take on a lot of burdens, and it's not healthy to hold that. So it's very important for self-care in any working industry, but healthcare as well.
Yeah. When you work in a care profession, it makes a difference, because the kind of work we do has wear and tear that is different. I mean, than if like you worked in a bank or you were an accountant. It's just different. It's just different. So how do you practice self-care for yourself these days?
So we have there's a local gym that we also offer members of our team an opportunity. We do a membership, and they're that they can go exercise classes and things. And so at home, I'm finding that I need to make time and prioritize my time. So when I'm planning, when I'm planning my schedule, when I'm planning um, not only my business schedule, I'm putting in my time, which could mean exercise in the morning. It could also mean a golf outing with the guys, or some time away with my family.
Yeah, very smart. I think back when I was first in nursing, and there was no conversation around self-care. I think it's become a little bit overly used now these days. I mean, this is 2025 and we've gone through the pandemic, and I think we overuse it casually in a way. But back then there was no conversation, at least not in nursing. Was there anybody in the funeral industry that was, when you were in school, that said, hey, this is going to be hard for you mentally and psychologically, and you need to take care of yourself? Did they teach you that?
No, I don't. I really don't remember that. And I think it was just it wasn't something that was talked about. It really wasn't.
Which is interesting because, I mean, the whole industry, you're working with families who are experiencing a traumatic grief event,
Yeah.
and it wears on you.
Sure does. Sure does.
Well, I can't say anything because in my nursing school, I didn't have any training on dealing with the dying
No.
and supporting their families. That's just the way the industries work these days. So what do you do for your team besides offering them the gym membership, which is fantastic, by the way? What else do you guys do for your team?
This is one thing that our team has participated in, but we do have an event at the funeral home that we offer throughout the year, is grief yoga.
Grief yoga.
So grief yoga, and it's on our website as well. You may want to check that out. So we've in the winter months, we'll have inside. We'll have the yoga inside, and it's really a time that it sounds. Again, this is something I've participated with, and my members of my team have as well. It's a time to come in and really connect. You might be connecting with someone that has passed. You might be connecting with yourself and just your own self-care. Maybe it's in your time of grief, you are neglecting your own self-care. And that's, something that happens often as well. Boy, I'm depressed. I don't want to go out of the house. I'm depressed. I'm going to eat poorly. Can go on right down the line. So we provide this opportunity, and it's not that it's a regular weekly class or a daily class, but it's an opportunity to come in and experience it. And if they want to go further in their time, they may do that. But we also have, we've done a sunrise, a sunset yoga outside.
Oh, nice.
We have a great space here at the funeral home out in the lawn. And so we've done that. And again, a great experience to concentrate on your own self-care, whether that's you're in the industry like we are, or maybe you're grieving and not necessarily prioritizing your self-care.
Right. Well, I think it's when you're immersed in the work or you're immersed in a loss, it's really hard to see the forest for the trees. Sometimes
Sure.
you need somebody else to say, hey, you
Right.
need this, or you should check this out. There's grief yoga over here. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit personal, if you don't mind. You've been doing this for a while. You said 28 years. What part
Yeah.
of the job weighs on you the heaviest?
Yeah. Again, this is something that I'm really trying to do better at, and that is to disconnect a bit prior to my time at home. I certainly, and I'm not the best at it, because the fact of the matter is, there's most growing up in this community, most families that we're serving, I know somebody in some connection. Now that I've said this earlier, but now that I'm a husband and a father, my daughter's 6, soon to be 7 in first grade. As parents, you're the protector, and you just those situations where families experience a loss sooner in life than what should ever happen is very difficult.
Yeah, it's relatable when you have a child.
Yes. It's relatable, but really unimaginable. And so, boy, it's tough to even imagine. So there's lots of burdens there that certainly are difficult. As difficult as they are, people have asked me, how or why do you do that? How can you do that?
Sure.
It's really the only thing that I know that I can do, that I can help. I can help. I know I can help. And so that's what I can provide. And that's the best I can do in such tragic situations.
Well, my next question was going to be, what about your job gives you joy or moves you the most?
Yeah. When I get a hug or a handshake and a thank you for taking care of my family, that's great. I when I hear somebody in the community or a professional say, we're just so thankful for you and your team at the funeral home. We appreciate you, or we appreciate what you do and how you've helped us. Wow, that's great. I mean, that's the best you can hear.
Yeah, it's the same way for a hospice nurse, which is a little crazy. You may spend hours and you go through this angst and this terrible experience with people, but you get a 2-minute hug.
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
That's it. You got it.
Yeah, paid in full. Isn't that crazy?
That's
but
right.
that gratitude, that recognition of the fact that you're present and helping somebody, that really makes all the difference. That's your why. That's your why, and
You're right.
I think that's wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay, so Andre, I'm going to ask you something. If you could go back and have a do-over as a young man and you had to choose a different profession, what would you want to do? What would you have wanted to do?
Oh my. I would go into sports broadcasting.
Really? Well, you coach a basketball team.
I did coach. I coached for 22 years. I was at high school and other levels. But I think that would have been, I would have worked for ESPN. That's it.
That's hey, lofty goal. That's not a bad thing. Andre, how can my listeners connect with the resources that you guys offer?
So our website is a great place to start, rouppfuneralhome.com. We have a ton of great resources, whether you're looking to plan, pre-planning, what are my first steps, pre-funding, whether you're looking for grief support through online support. In person, we offer in-person weekly grief support here at the funeral home. Different events that we hold, as well. Throughout the year, we have Cocoa with Santa. We have Halloween costume contest. We do lots of different events here at the funeral home. Free Coffee Fridays, the first Friday of each month. Great time to come in and socialize with members of your community when you don't necessarily need to come in to talk about funeral stuff, but although you may. So our website is a great place to start. And of course, if you would like to speak directly to myself or a member of my team, calling and setting up an appointment, we can certainly be happy to sit down and speak with you.
Well, because my listeners are all over the country, I think they should check out the email grief support that you provide, because I've been getting them every week and I read through those, and they're really diverse. They take on a lot of the different qualities and aspects and situations that people might be feeling if they've had a loss. And it's really good grief support, I think. And for some people, obviously, not everybody lives in your community, but for some people also, grief is very private. And I think sitting in a grief support group may be more painful or out of their comfort zone far enough that they're not going to do that. But you can have an email and sit and read it in private, and I think it's still supportive. It's still helpful. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that feedback. Thank you.
Well, Andre, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for talking with me, and keep doing the good work.
Well, I appreciate the invitation, and certainly looking forward to tuning into more of your podcast. And you make it very, very easy, very comfortable. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Heart of Hospice podcast. Check out our sponsor in the show notes, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate it if you would share this episode with your friends and family and anyone who needs to know more about hospice. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.